What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Awakening World. I'm your host, Love Coach Scott Thomas, and tonight is another edition of Authors That We Love. You're going to meet four wonderful authors and learn all about their books or their upcoming books in one person's case. And our authors, we're going to go into a greater description of a little bit later on the show, but we do have with us tonight Kamala Devi, one of my dearest friends and a brilliant author. Gary Whitney, who wrote this book, which I have been enjoying, all about Seasons of the Soul and contemporary revelations of the Ascended Masters. We're going to learn all about that. And then Victoria Friedman, who's a colleague of mine. She and her husband, Ron, are going to be with us, giving us a little bit of a preview of their upcoming book. And then I have a pre-record with a fascinating woman coming to us from Spain named Celine da Costa, and her book is called The Burning Ground. Anyway, we're going to meet these authors, we're going to talk with them, and as always, we're going to start the show with music, so get ready to move and groove to music with our beloved house musical artist, our wonderful Omar Sharp.
So, yes, welcome everybody watching on Facebook and YouTube and our other streaming partners, Humanities Team, welcome. And so this is a little song called In the Stillness. And what we need right now, apart from love, 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 is a bit of stillness. And so let's see where this one goes. The quieter you become, the more you can hear. In the silence, in the stillness, I am here. Through the wisdom of your tears, through your heartbreaks, through your breakthroughs, through the shedding of your fears, know that I am with you and guiding your way. Know that I am cheering you on. Truth lives within you and love leads us through. I love you. Now your heart and mind is clear, and you know that love is with you, love supports you, love is here. And you feel that you belong, and you're walking with purpose. You can hear your life's new song. To know that I am with you and guiding your way. Know that I am cheering you on. Truth lives within you, and love leads us through. I love you. Ba-ba-ba-da-ba-da-da. Ba-da-da-da-ba. Ba-da-da-ba. Ba-da-da-ba-ba-ba-ba. Through the wisdom of your tears, through your heartbreaks, through your breakthroughs, through the shedding of your fears. So know that I am with you and guiding your way. Know that I am cheering you on. Truth lives within you, and love leads us through. I love you. I love you. I love you.
Woohoo! All right. Let's go to gallery view and send lots and lots of loving twinkles and appreciation to our beloved Omar Shah, who will be back with 2 more musical numbers. And I appreciate the Global Peace Tribe dancers.
I know, right?
Awesome.
It just
Absolutely.
lifts everything. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Omar Shah. Well, I am going to read some of the comments, and then we're going to meet Kamala Devi. But there are some wonderful comments from you, our Zoom room audience. And just a reminder for everybody watching on Facebook and YouTube, that's why it's fun to come into the Zoom room and be with us live. So Susan Blomquist writes, I rather like to read the stories of John Steinbeck. Dia Therese is coming to us from the northwest state of Idaho, and she sends love to all. And the book that changed her life was The Moses Code by James Twyman. And she's really appreciating the latest of his 24 books, The Annihilated Self, Consumed by the Fire of Love. I'll have to see if we can get Jimmy on the show. He's been on the show before, but not for a while. And again, thank you, everybody, for letting us know what parts of the world you're coming to us from. We've got people from Nevada City, all the way to Ecuador, Santa Barbara, all over. Speaking of Santa Barbara, Susan from Santa Barbara, she's got an oldie but goodie, one of my favorites, Be Here Now by our beloved Ram Dass. And Drina Joy from Ecuador, sending us love, and I'm glad you're with us, Karina. Thank you. Carol Craig is reading Robert Reich's Coming Up Short right now. He is a fabulous writer, professor, and economist, and she's coming to us from Rhode Island, but soon will be heading back to her other home in Trinidad. And so, Carol, we love you much. Glad you're here. And KD, Kamala Devi, is inspired by Liz Gilbert's new book, All the Way to the River. Giara loves William Faulkner. So there are some of the people that have shared. Last one, Sandra Wasco, is the author of The Labyrinth Path to Peace, Art, and Poetry. So Sandra will have to promote that on the show sometime. That'd be fun, because I know you've been a regular with us for a very long time. All right, I get to introduce to you one of my favorite people. She's been a friend of mine for, I guess, about 15 years. We've taught together and collaborated in different ways. And I am talking about our first presenter, Kamala Devi. And I will tell you a little bit about her. For over 20 years, Kamala Devi McClure, she has a wonderful husband, Michael, whom I adore. She has been a polyamory pioneer. I actually should say they have been. They are always helping me to learn about proper pronouns, and I'm working on it. So they are a polyamory pioneer, tantric lineage holder, and multi-dimensional mystic. How often do you hear all those words put together in one sentence? That's how unique this person is. As an author of 7 books on sex and relationships, Kamala Devi travels the world teaching temple arts, eros, and soul initiation. She's well known for starring in Showtime's Polyamory, Married and Dating, and they have also been featured on The Tyra Banks Show, MTV, Dr. Drew, and many others. Their work expands the inner marriage, not only to include the union of masculine and feminine, but also to merge the transcendent with the embodied. They enjoy living by the ocean in San Diego with their husband, Michael, we already mentioned, wonderful teenage son, Devin, and 2 sweet little cats. You can learn all about them at kamaladevi.com, which I'll be showing you a little bit later on in our program. So welcome to the Awakening World. Again, you've been on the show before, but it's good to have you back with us, KD.
Thank you, Scott. It's an honor, especially, honoring books and other authors, and it's fun to be around. There's, I think, a polemic sometimes because I do a lot of temple arts that are very embodied. A lot of people are down on reading because you can't learn tantra from a book. And then there's like, oh, but books are like lovers. And I'm here with you and your other reader friends, and that touches me.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you with us. In the past, when I've been doing a Zoom call with Kamala Devi, I've literally put a Post-it in big words, them, they, and I didn't do that tonight. So bear with me.
It's new for all of us, like the language evolves with us. And I want to point to something, for those that feel off put by pronouns and the frustration of the politically correct, how things are changing. For me, it's actually a spiritual coming out, because beyond my non-binary, gender orientation, it's really about the soul and how, and the various soul guides, the guides that we have. Like, we're not singularities. At least I don't experience myself as an individual. So when we say they, them, you're referring to like all of this, as well as the greater non-physical part, which is not he or she.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be important as we learn about this new book that you've written, a little bit about you and your history. And can you start by explaining to the audience what temple arts are, and maybe a little bit about even an introduction? I imagine most of the audience knows about Tantra and sacred sexuality, but temple arts might be a new term for some of them.
Yeah, thank you. Whew. So, I love that this is the Awakening Show, because I genuinely feel like that's why I wrote this book, and that's why I do the work that I do. It's about awakening. And most people here are already tuned into the fact that these are not just bodies, but this is a body temple, and our sacred body temple has, its frequency, and we raise our vibration when we're in pleasure with it. That's healthy, delicious foods, or erotic energy, or good partnerships, or like the environment we surround ourselves with, the beauty. Like, temple arts are, come in many, many different mediums. And it's how we raise the the vibration of the body temple. And so whether that's through dance or making love or being out in nature, these are all examples of temple arts.
Beautiful. Well, the name of the book, and I don't know if you have your cover available to show people, but it's a great title. One Fool's Journey, a multidimensional memoir with lessons on polyamory, tantra, and tarot. So, first of all, I appreciate the humility that you see yourself as the fool. And actually, I've always loved the fool has always been my favorite card in the tarot deck. Would you be willing to share with us again a little bit about maybe the traditional thinking of the fool in the tarot deck, and then your own personal relationship to that?
Beautiful. So I would say, that we're all fools, especially in love,
Yeah.
love, we're just like foolish and impulsive, and and the world becomes innocent and hopeful again. And traditionally in the classic tarot, we have the kind of beginner's mind, the at the beginning of the journey, stepping off into the path, not knowing where it's heading, and trusting that the path will reveal. And so it's a beautiful, innocent beginning to the 22 cards that succeed, which is the major arcana. So there's 78 cards in the whole deck. The first 22 are the main archetypes. And the Fool gets to meet each archetype in turn, like a mentor, an ally, or a foe, and like gets tested and initiated until ultimately realizing the world card, which is the world is like this completion, this commencement, and a spiraling up to the next level and the next adventure. And so when we go through the fool's journey, we come back around, of course, to be like an enlightened fool, or now an experienced fool, into the next spiral of what the universe has in store for us. So I do feel like we're all fools on our own spiritual paths. And then life gives us various lessons. And my memoir happens to be like 22 lessons that I went through in my awakening.
I would love for you to pick one of those lessons, either out of your mind, off the mind, or if you want to thumb through and just see where your finger goes to. But
Why don't you, yeah, why don't we take a suggestion of any card in the in the chat? So
that's a great idea. Do you happen to have a list of the cards handy that we could screen share?
That we could screen share. I don't have. So here's the thing. I just want to name, my hands are itching because I'm in the reformulation of the book cover. The book is forthcoming, not published yet. I have like all my other books, my whole library. I can't wait to add my Fool's Journey to this here. But I will say some options are the Magician, the Priestess, the Emperor, the Empress, the Death card, the Tower card, the Hanged Man. These are archetypes that you all know. They're like, they exist in collective conscience.
Okay,
So,
Keith and Deborah have asked for the Priestess, and Carol Craig asked for the Hierophant.
mhm. Well, I will start with the Hierophant because I'm a 5. I was born 5/5/75. And I'm 50 years old this year. So it's a 5 card in the tarot. And the Hierophant is the traditional, more orthodox lineage holder. So this is a teacher, and it's a teacher who's saying like, hey, here's the history and the mystery of what's come before, and let's honor these rituals and ceremonies. And it's a little more orthodox, as opposed to the Priestess, which is a little more mysterious and spontaneous and intuitive. So the reason I'm choosing the Hierophant is because in my story, it was when I went to India, for example, and I was like thirsting, young tantra yoga student, wanting to learn like tantra from the motherland, so going to like the roots to try to learn tantra, and discovering when there that like Tantra's as misunderstood as it is here in the West, it's even more misunderstood there. It's feared like witchcraft. It's like hidden. It's broken lineage. Like so it was this pilgrimage. I was studying with the tantric master, and I really got mixed messages and dangerous teachings, actually. So that particular chapter in my life was an initiation into the inner teacher through trying to do guru worship. Oh, they must have the answers. It must be out there in this lineage in the past. And instead, what it turned me through that initiation, I had to turn inside and go, ooh, there's a deeper inner teacher that I have to listen to.
Beautiful. And how does that show up in your life today?
I would say, honestly, this is the seed within all of my teachings. Like, genuinely, when I work with someone, it's like, how do I support them to listen to their inner teacher? Even today on this call, as we're all gathering, we're exchanging medicines with different authors with different ideas. If that medicine leads us closer to our inner teacher, then it's aligned, it's good. If it leads us farther, then it's like, okay, great. Thanks for teaching me where not to go. But ultimately, it's know thyself and be true to that.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting you said that. I recently read that the most quoted line from Shakespeare of all of his works is "To thine own self be true." Yeah.
I think that's
Well,
Polonius in Hamlet.
there you go. I love that, knowing you, I love that Keith and Deborah chose the priestess, because you certainly have played the role of the priestess. But share with our audience a little bit about that part of your journey.
Well, it's interesting because, again, as a non-binary being, the priestess is such a feminine figure, and it's such a quintessential feminine mysteries. And I came into my sexual awakening very lesbian identified, very butch, very I would say feminist, and kind of rejecting some of the ideals of how, you know, femininity was being taught, especially even in women's circles. I'd go to a red tent or a moon circle, and I would just feel like I didn't belong. And so it's been really coming full circle, because that particular chapter in my memoir is when I met my husband, and I love at first sight. What opens inside of us when it's love, it doesn't matter what the gender is, but like love itself is an initiation. Speaking of great quotes, I think about gosh, you said it. It's essentially that, like, my favorite definition of love is when we recognize ourselves in another.
Yes. Yes.
So I saw that in my husband the moment I met him, and the journey I had to go on in order to really just embrace and accept that by his contrast, because I had been with women before, but by the masculine contrast, I got to actually hold and be with some of the feminine intuition and mystery, and bring that fully in, embrace that part that I had been rejecting. And then the most beautiful thing is that he also got to fall in love with his inner feminine. He was a reflection of my inner masculine. And so as I work with the priestess, and these, like, the queen and king archetypes as well, it very much is about the inner work. It's meeting, those energies. So I actually prefer, thinking of the priestess, which is masculine and feminist, both like the Pope and the Popess. So
I love that. That's beautiful. Well, now we're going to take questions from the audience. I've already got a couple that have come in, three actually. And so if any of you have questions for Kamala Devi, please put them in the chat box. The first question comes to you from Dorina Joy. She's a friend of ours all the way down in Ecuador. And she writes, are these pronouns used and popular in other cultures, languages, and regions, or are they mostly just in the Western part of the world?
yeah, it's, we're so globalized now. Like a lot of what happens, I hardly think of things. It's hard to keep anything localized. Everything is global with the and so I would genuinely say that there are places in the West where this is really like actively important, a huge part of like a growing movement. And there are certainly places where people haven't even heard about, pronouns. But I will say, as a Latina, my mother is Mexican, my first language is Spanish. When I first brought the idea of using ella, which is not él or ella, but ella, which is a lot of Latinx activists use this term. She just, she's an elder and couldn't change and mindset, but it's so baked into the language. So she, bless her heart, she rejected the idea. I know she loves me, but she says, "Do you want me to call you Kamalo Devi or Devo?" Like she's like, how deeply into the change do you want me to go? Because it's every word changes based on, the gender. So certain languages, it's a lot harder. But then there's countries like Sweden or more progressive countries that use hen or z, or they even not just using they, them, they have a whole other word to represent non-binary pronouns. So it's a deep, enriching conversation to be a part of.
Great. Okay. Thank you for that. George has a question. It's about white tantra, which he's recently heard about, and he understands that that does not involve sexual behavior. So what is it? Aurora Ray has spoken of it, and he's intrigued.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, I want to make the distinction because traditional spirituality tends to be from the heart chakras up, and it tends to be ascendant, that people, when they hear tantra, which tantra does embrace the body and the lower chakras, people automatically go to, oh, it must involve sex. And so the term white tantra, pink tantra, or red tantra are used to to kind of make distinctions that white tantric practices aren't just, upper chakra practices. They can be holistic, whole body, but they don't involve necessarily, sexual acts. But you can do sexual acts in your visualization. A lot of Tibetan lamas who are white tantrics will visualize consummating with a deity in their inner worlds with mantras and yantras, and like the inner alchemy is making love, to the divine. And that's white tantra because their body might just be in stillness or in breath work. So there's many, many, many different ways that white tantra can look. But the distinction is that it's not red tantra, and red is like this radical full body path that may involve consummation. It may involve partaking in medicines and breaking other taboos. I mean, it tends to be like the most whatever traditional tantra, whatever traditional spirituality says is taboo and sacred, we're going to do that as a way to embrace our wholeness, because if we resist it, it's keeping us limited. And tantra is all about collapsing polarities and being free. So red tantra is very radically embodied, and pink tantra is some kind of a in-between hybrid. It's a spectrum, and pink is more like, gives you more freedom on the spectrum.
Beautiful. Thank you. And if anybody has more questions, let me know. Susan's question is, what does this mean? Recognize oneself in another. What does that mean?
Hmm. Yeah, so I mean, everybody's experience of love is different, and this was referring to love. But it's a oneness. It's that through someone's eyes, when you feel, there's only one of us here, like looking at one's through their gaze, where you recognize, that the animating force runs through all of us. And it might not just be that one person, it might be through animals and plants, and it puts us in that oneness state. And there's also teachings and experiences, I'll say, of being like twin spirits, where there are certain beloveds who feel maybe quantum entangled, like that their souls are really, really inseparable, and that they have, come into this world in a separate self and come in for the quest to find each other. And I want to say, as a polyamorous practitioner, which I celebrate all different forms of relating, but for some people who feel very devoted to, in this incarnation, they want one partner to explore love with. I have the experience actively, and so does my husband, of being part of a soul tribe. So instead of being like, this is my one soulmate, it's like we actually have a lot of soulmates, and not just here in San Diego, but around the world. And when we sometimes meet someone, we recognize, they're from my soul tribe, and there's a oneness that resonates, and you feel it. Yeah.
Beautiful. As most of you know, I make my living as a coach working with couples, and I often have couples eye gaze in many of my sessions, especially just to help bring them together. And I always suggest, once they've really dropped in, see past the personality, see the soul. And then the last thing I always ask is, can you see yourself? Because it's a very special moment when people can, through eye gazing, drop into that place where they see themselves in the other. It's a very transcendental experience, and also a beautiful, it requires a beautiful intimacy into me see. So I also just want to acknowledge that Kamala Devi and their husband Michael have been happily married for 23 years, and they've been very active in the polyamory community. Both of them have had many lovers, and they've pulled it off. And it's unique. It's unique. Long-term marriages with that much polyamory engagement is quite an accomplishment. And so,
thank you for the little applauses that are little celebrations. I want to say, for years I was like carrying the banner, being like, look, it can be good. It's possible. We're doing it. And honestly, I wouldn't recommend it like anymore. My feeling is like, you have to be really called to this path. It takes so much work. And there are so many, and every relationship takes work. Multiple relationships take an exponential amount of more work. And I want to be realistic about how challenging it is to have we do it for the spiritual reflection. It's like, oh, you meet someone and they have something to reflect that is totally different than this other person, and you can know yourself fully because you have different facets that are being reflected to you. And when you're having a crisis, and I have mental health issues, for example, like if you have something come up and that crisis is reflected in multiple relationships, it can be hell. It can be so challenging. And I would not have made it through this long without Scott's support. So, I mean, it's really important that we, even relationship coaches need coaches like Scott to help us through.
Oh, thank you. Well, there's some wonderful comments coming in. People are really appreciating your honesty. Gaia on Maui is appreciating that. Karen S. writes, I did not fully understand what it meant to recognize oneself in another until I met the person I'm currently in relationship with. He feels it too, but I don't think he fully understands what we both have recognized from day one. So it's very beautiful. Tiara writes, one must override so much cultural conditioning as well as emotional reactions. Absolutely. Therese is writing, KD, I am so enriched by your presentation. Bravo. Susan T. Peace writes, see oneself as another. And George writes, yes, there was an early book about open marriage, although they ended up separating. And, not all relationships are meant to last forever. Tarina Joy has a question for you. She would love for you to share what taboos and myths you would like to see fall away regarding sex, tantra, and polyamory. Good question.
How long do we have?
I'm going to give you a little extra time, so go for it.
And I mean that, humorously, it's like, yeah, I could look outside myself and say, like, this is what's wrong with society, or this is what's off, or this is because we have collectively, there's a lot of cultural wounding about our bodies and about, Eros is one of the most profound sources of like empowerment and enlightenment, and the systems want to very much push it down, because when people are empowered by their own erotic current, they can't be controlled. And so a big part of what we're doing in awakening isn't just awakening the heart and the spirit, but like what happens when we awaken the body all the way down and people are free, and can't be controlled. Like, that's potent stuff, dangerous stuff. So when I feel into it, it's not so much like, let's take down the systems or the teachings, or it's more a question of like, how do we each on our own paths look at like, what is the next obstacle, hurdle, barrier? Because it really is like awakening is a path and it's an ongoing one. So it's like, what's the next one that I'm up against? Where do I find shame? And like, how do I, inside me with the inner work, not outside, they need to change, but like, what do I need to shift inside me so that I can be, the love that I am, and own my pleasure, own my desires, and what shame needs to fall away, because the outside world actually isn't going to change unless we change. Like this is where the work starts. And that requires a deep, honest assessment from each of us of like, where am I holding myself back? Where have I still inherited all this BS, And I'll just say, this is just so I can be, personal. Like, I'm Latina, and my ancestors have instilled in my cells, it feels like, this intense jealousy and possessiveness. And that something that it's a lifelong thing I've been fighting. And that's my kind of cross to bear burden. And it's like, I can't ask for a world where there's free love out there if I'm not like working on my own jealousy. So I invite each of you to kind of look at what's your cross and where's your next step, because that's actually where you're going to see the most leverage change in the world.
Reverend Jeffrey Colbrook writes, one of the experiments at the farm was 4 marriages, and several of them 4 polyamorous marriages. And we had the original people from the farm on the show. I guess that was about 6 months ago or so. I like what Gaia on Maui writes. Love is who we truly are when we live in awareness. And the Friedmans point out that polyamory is probably where we are going as a species, and I tend to agree with that. I think that as time goes by, there will be more and more open relating, polyamory, alternative lifestyles. As we move from survival into thriving, I think that that's true. Susan writes, "What is love? Life's omnipotent veritas eternal." Thank you. All right, so I want to share with you how you can find all things Kamala Devi. And it's very, very easy. I want all of you to do this because you're all on your computer right now. Go to her name, KamalaDevi.com. 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 Just want to get that McClure in there. It's not part of the website, but we love Michael and we appreciate their marriage. And it's a great website, first of all. Just take a look. All the different books that she's written. 52 Fridays was, I really appreciated that book because it was with somebody that she and a relationship she had with a dear friend of mine. And so lots and lots of books. Make sure you get on her list. So pop in like I'm doing right now, your email address, and she sends you free gifts. What do people get when they sign up to be on your mailing list?
So I have sample chapters from books. I send podcasts and videos, but mostly like we're all inundated with all kinds of too much. Mostly it's the way that I get to stay in touch with you because each month on the full moon, I kind of share from my heart, here's what's happening, here's my musings. You know, I'm a mystic, so I'm usually doing some kind of a ceremony and sharing the harvest. Right now, what's most alive is that this book for the summer solstice is going to have a release, and I've never run a Kickstarter campaign. So I'm generating it with this crowdfunding technology in order to build a tarot card deck. So it's an exciting new endeavor. And so perfect that you clicked on the bookstore because this is where you can sign up for when the Kickstarter is available. But what I want to say about this cover, I just need to name, and all of you artists will relate. I had this strong dream and this picture came to me and it was like a vision. And I'm like, this is what needs to be on the cover of my book. And I put it out there and half of my audience like freaked out and said, "Ooh, creepy. I'm never going to buy that book." So I'm changing the cover because I'm listening to people, but there's that artistic thing of how do you not sell out? Like how do you stay true to your own vision, your own dream, and then not listen too much that you lose and water down what it is you want to transmit. So I'm like in an artistic quandary. And if you join that list, you'll get to see what the new cover turns out to be.
So I really want to encourage all of you, join her list. Follow Kamala Devi. This is a fascinating person. I always enjoy their monthly newsletters and what they are cooking up in that brilliant creative mind of theirs. And now, is there a link yet for the Kickstarter campaign?
As soon as it's live, it was going to be live today for your show. You motivated me. But then when I got this response that was like, don't send that cover out, I thought, you know what? I don't want to turn people off. So I had to freeze the whole campaign. But the book itself is complete. And the editors that were, fine tuning it, both two separate professional editors are just like, this changed my life. So I'm so excited to get this in your hands. So I look forward to staying in touch about it.
I'm really excited about it. Thank you so much for getting us off to such a wonderful start tonight. And you know that I love you very much. Thank you much. Take care. All right, we are going to go right into our next author. He had actually sent me his book quite a while ago, and I've really been enjoying it. You are meeting Gary Whitney, and his book is Seasons of the Soul, Contemporary Revelations of the Ascended Masters. And I've got it in my hot little hand, but I'm going to go ahead and show you the book on Amazon, and I'm going to read what what kind of it's about. It's about the firsthand experiences of contemporary revelations of the ascended masters, their thoughts and understanding of life, death, unity with all of humanity, God, mediumship, duality, suffering, gemstones of the Bible, soulmates, twin rays, prayer, prophecy, and virtue. Does that sound like a lot? Well, guess what? The book is 500 pages. It's quite a volume. And as it says here, the book is a courageous presenting knowledge of mysterious gifts from spirit. So I am really glad you're with us, Gary. So welcome to the Awakening.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Wonderful to be here. We were going to do it a couple of weeks ago and we got delayed. So this
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you for being patient. It's true. We were going to do it. Usually I do authors that we love like once every 2 months. And this month there was so many authors that it ended up being twice in this particular month. So there's so many chapters, there's so many things here that are fascinating. But let's just start with what inspired you. This is a heck of a book. This is this was not written overnight. So, tell us about what inspired you to write it, and maybe share an experience or two that you've chronicled in the book that's been part of your awakening. We are on the awakening world. So tell us about your awakening, Gary.
Well, look, it kind of starts off at Findhorn, actually. I was motivated to go to Findhorn. I lived there for a year, and that's kind of where my spiritual journey started, with Eileen Caddy and the Findhorn community. And then when I came back, I got involved with Muktananda, and I was meditating with him. And then I got introduced to Aquarian Foundation, and frankly, I didn't resonate with it very much at first. There were all kinds of sacred objects that I didn't really relate to, and then there was an evening that was called it's Wednesday night service. It's a healing service, and my wife, who's passed, but she and I were like soulmates. And when we went there, when they directed healing, Monica, someone was sitting in a chair up front, and a healer was directing healing to them, and Monica was in the audience. And wherever the healer put their hands on the person sitting in the chair, Monica felt the healing going to her in that same spot. And then she was so talented spiritually that at each of the Aquarian sessions, when she'd shut her eyes, movies would just start playing one after the other of ascended masters sending her experiences. And so it was because of Monica's profound experiences that little by little I moved away from the Muktananda experience, and I moved into like direct experiences with the Aquarian Foundation and the wisdom of the masters. The medium his name was Reverend Keith Milton Reinhardt, and it's shocking to me that most people have never heard of Keith Milton Reinhardt. And did you? Okay, but he went into trance and brought forward messages from masters for over 40 years. And the first seance that I went to there, it was in San Francisco, and Reverend Reinhardt was in an undisclosed position, and I don't know if it was other country or in another state, but he went into trance, and Saint Germain came through, and he went from person to person, and then he came to me. And he said, "Beloved Gary," and those two words just unglued me. I have never experienced the unconditional love and the compassion and care that those two words. And the masters say, one whisper from spirit is worth hours and hours and hours of communications from what Saint Germain called astral shells or deluded mediums. And I can attest to that I was so moved that kind of put me on the path with Ascended Masters.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And who is an ascended master that you feel especially touched by?
Um, wow. There, that's very difficult to say because over 40 years of mediumship, there were hundreds and hundreds of masters that came through. There was Saint Germain. Saint Germain, I would say, is close to my heart. But there's space masters. Yogananda came through his mediumship. Jesus came through his mediumship. Buddha. Um, it's pretty unlimited. A lot of Sufi masters. A lot of masters that showed up in Theosophy. Katumi, El Moria. But if you're familiar with the life and teachings of the ascended masters from the Far East, there's a couple of
Yes.
masters that Baird Spalding relates to, Master Jast and Master Emil. And Emil especially came through Reverend Reinhardt's mediumship many, many times. And he in life and teachings he talked about. Baird talked about when he went on walks with Emil that the birds would fly and land on his hands, the animals would bow down to him, and he was like one with all of the nature kingdom. And I that's he related a lot of those experiences through Reverend Reinhardt. Emil spoke often of love and realizing our unity with all of humanity. One of the main messages that comes through the masters is to get off of our self-importance, our me, and step out into the world and try to relate to people, not just the people that we feel kinship with, because there's a harmony and there's not really the kind of soul growth that we can experience when we engage with someone that has an adversarial voice. And so the masters really, if we're going to bring about peace, if we're going to bring about unity, that it's incumbent upon us to reach out to where there's more divisiveness and where there's more division, and try to find tolerance, try to find common ground. So that's really one of the things that happened with our book. Steve Young, who is the co-author, was a policeman, and I'm an artist, and so we're kind of a oil and water mix. I always had a kind of a confrontational relationship with policemen. I never appreciated them. They were always just kind of a pain in my rear. And Steve never really appreciated artists. He was like a guy who, he was interested in justice. He was interested in more concrete things. And so he never really appreciated artists at all. So us coming together was quite surprising. And I learned from Steve how much suffering, and a policeman on a given day, he may see brains smashed all over the street. He sees sexual abuse, and they go home and there's a lot of post-traumatic stress. And I never was able to appreciate that. That just went right past me. So many of us don't appreciate the fears and the confrontation that a policeman faces every day. And so me and Steve reaching out and working on this book together I came to understand a whole side of humanity that I had pushed away from myself. And he came to understand that artists, um, he saw that I marched in marches, throughout my whole life, and he saw that I was a stand for social justice. And he was shocked that an artist had that kind of mindset. So the book kind of stems from that coming together with people who are different than us and bridge, finding unity, finding common ground, and finding tolerance and understanding with them. That's one of the biggest comments, I think, and instruction. I wouldn't say instruction, but the masters really urge us to step out of our comfort zone, confront people and be with people and be an adversarial voice where we would usually be quiet, not to set somebody straight, but to really understand their position in a deeper way. We're so superficial in how we relate to the world. And I have I have an experience that might be interesting. And it kind of follows up on this, up on the heels of some of Devi's comments about sexuality. And I always thought I was pretty liberal with my sexual understanding and socially astute. And so there was one day I was at a birthday party, and this man was celebrating me. He had just received a black belt in karate, and I was sitting next to a man that was in the dojo, and he was a karate black belt. And he started talking to me about how on the side, he was a porn star. And he went into how he couldn't start being a porn star until his parents passed because he didn't want to embarrass them. And then he went into a lot of his experiences. And I frankly was pretty disgusted. I thought it was highly demeaning of women. And I really appreciated him, but I had trouble with his embracing being a porn star. And so then Steve told me, Steve Young, the man who wrote the book with me, told me of an experience that this is Reverend Reinhardt is entranced at a gathering, and he calls Steve and says, "This is Saint Germain, and I'd like to invite you to go to Atlanta to Emory Hospital. Larry Flint, who is the editor, who's the owner and editor of Hustler magazine, has been shot, and we want to send healing to him." And so I was going, Larry Flint, you're going to send healing, and so yes, Steve went to Lawrenceville. No, actually Atlanta. Larry Flint was shot at Lawrenceville Courthouse defending his First Amendment rights. He got shot by a high-powered rifle, and he was left holding his guts in his hand to die. And they got him to the hospital, and Steve got there, I don't know, maybe a week after, and asked if he could send spiritual healing. And the policeman there said, well, they'd have to talk to his wife, Althea. And so Althea gave the approval. And it took maybe a half an hour to get Larry Flint propped up. He had hoses. She said there were more hoses and tubes coming out of him than he'd ever seen in his life. And he said to Larry that the ascended masters have sent me here. They want you to continue to express your First Amendment rights, and they want you to continue writing the articles with all the corruption in Congress and all the corruption in America. And so they want to keep you alive. and stuff. Steve sends healing for about half an hour, and then Larry's just too exhausted to continue. And so he leaves. And later he gets a message from Althea thanking him for doing the healing. And in 2 weeks, Larry Flint leaves the hospital, and he is paralyzed for the remainder of his life, but he's able to continue with the magazine and becoming the porn king of America. And so the masters say, and I was shocked about this whole thing. And then they articulated that there'd be more rapes and there'd be more deaths and murders and perversion if we didn't allow prostitution and we didn't allow pornography. And that really, that completely shifted my consciousness around that whole idea of sexuality. And so I had a big lesson there.
I really love that story, Gary. That's a beautiful story. And there's several comments I want to read from our audience because I always like to include our audience. And the first one I'm going to read is from Dia Therese. She says, I am so happy that you, Gary, are referencing Masters of the Far East. Several of our Global Peace Drivers have taken Dr. Cat Lewis's Master Life and Teachings classes. Bravo, and thank you. I'm loving your presentation. And yes, indeed, hopefully people can see it. Here they are. There it is.
And when I read that book, I just went ecstatic. I couldn't put it down.
Yeah, it's a classic, and I've got the 6-volume set here. Anyway, I want to read a few more comments that have come in from our audience. A wonderful comment from Susan T. Peace. She writes, I met Jesus when I was 2 years young due to a 2-week near-death experience. Jesus has been very close this entire life, and life is truly full of miracles. I've experienced 4 near-death experiences in this lifetime. One very recently, a heart attack due to electrocution,
Wow.
a massive 4th-stage heart attack. So yes, it's a miracle you're alive, Susan T. Peace, and I'm very glad you're with us.
Yeah.
Gaia on Maui writes, it's an interesting experiment to watch how our judgment arises. Where do they all come from? Absolutely. So much of our judgments are prejudice, and just when we see something that's different than the way we think or something that we know. So I really appreciate that. Diara, when you were talking, Gary, about your friend Steve, your co-author, she writes something here. She says, Gary might be the sacred activist and Steve plays the role of sacred protector. And I like that, Diara. I think that's really right on.
I think there's some truth to that. Steve was Reverend Reinhardt's bodyguard, so he definitely has played the role of a protector. But yeah, he's the masters have a very close relationship with Steve before almost every seance. And when I joined the church, I never met Reverend Reinhardt. Steve was like a confidant. But before the Ascended Masters would start a seance, they would always ask if Steve was present in the audience. So there's a real closeness
Beautiful.
with Steve and the Masters.
We've got a question for you and a couple more comments.
Okay.
Dorina Joy writes, Gary, what is your take on the soul contracts versus free will? How much freedom of choice do we have in our seasons of the soul to shift the timelines that we may have been born into, wanting to, or thinking we were to experience?
Yeah. Well, the way I would look at that is I think it's a little bit paradoxical. I would say free will is one stream or one set of rapids, and predestiny is another. And they both are true and both exist, and they both pour into the same river. So that because there is free will doesn't mean there isn't predestiny. It's paradoxical, but both ideas can be true. One of the masters, there was an ascended master called Master Odessa who lived in the time of Atlantis, and he was actually present in the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid, as assisting Jesus in Jesus's final 33rd initiation. So he talks about prophecy and he talks about free will, and he says even though it's contradictory, both can exist and they both live in the same stream with different, if you looked at a stream, you could see two different entry points from different concepts or different rapids merging in one stream. Does that answer your question to some extent?
We'll see. I'll let her come back and tell us how that lands for her. A couple of other comments, and then we're going to take a look at your website one more time where people can buy this wonderful, wonderful book. There's a question of, did Madame Blavatsky come through this channeling?
Yeah, Madame Blavatsky came through many times. The masters, they channeled a lot of the information of secret doctrine and Isis. And Blavatsky was always there was one particular seance that was just lady masters that spoke, and Madame Blavatsky was one of the main speakers. So Madame Blavatsky came through Keith many times.
Beautiful.
I said Keith, I should be saying Reverend Reinhardt.
Oh, that's totally okay. All right. Well, thank you, Gary. I'm going to take people one last time, and thank you, Diara, for putting into the chat box where people can get the book, Seasons of the Soul, Contemporary Revelations of the Ascended Masters, and you can buy it on Amazon. It's also, as you see, available on Kindle. And so I encourage everybody to get this really, really wonderful book. And thank you, Gary, for taking time to be with us tonight.
I really appreciate you including me, Scott. We don't know each other well, but I appreciate you reaching out, and it's a great opportunity for me.
Yeah, my pleasure. And thanks for sending the book. I've really enjoyed it. All right. We are at the halfway point of our show. And I'm going to turn it over mid-show break. Time for us to have our second of three musical offerings from our beloved Omashar.
Yes, thank you, Gary. And it's interesting how we brought up the life and teachings of the Masters of the Far East, because 4 nights ago I finished my last page of the whole series. And it's been my bedtime brain fodder. And it's truly an amazing set of books. I'd recommend it to everybody, along, of course, with the I Am teachings from the I Am Foundation. But it's just an amazing, it's mind-blowing. It blows every crumb out of your mind that is not. And on that note, I'm going to sing a song now called Human. And so put on your dancing shoes, take up, put your headphones on, turn it up to 11, and let's see what happens. Never before has this been. Are you ready?
We've been taking it for granted that our lives will stay the same, our comfort will remain. Yet we know now the world is really changing, so we take each other's hands and reveal the promised land. courage flowing through our veins, showing us the way to surrender and to say fire what no longer serves us all, so no more do we recall. And we all stand up, and we all stand tall, and the world will change as we heed the call. Remember, life is in your own hands, but the time to sit alone on your comfortable throne, it's over. But together we can make it. Bring back the Eden of the past. Let it shine through our hearts. And we all stand up. And we all stand tall. And the world will change as we heed the call. And we all stand up, and we all stand tall, and the world will change as we heed the call. Yes, we all stand up. Yes, we all stand tall. Yes, the world will change. Yes, we heed the call. Here we go.
Well, there we are. Scott, you're muted.
And I was telling you how wonderful your songs were.
Well, I knew that. I could read your lips, brother.
Oh, thank you very much. I love you, brother. And he'll be back for our closing song. We'll be with Omar Shark.
Oh, that was a premiere. There's a full premiere, Scott.
You know, okay, so here's the thing. I was going to say, is that a brand new song? And then I was afraid that if I said that, it wouldn't be, and then I'd be embarrassing myself by not remembering it.
This is the show of revelations, and I finished that about 5 hours ago. I've been working on it the last month, and it started off being called African Dream because of the rhythm behind it, and it ended up being called Human because of the lyrics that came through. So
it's beautiful. Well, all right, so I'm going to go back to Gallery Review one more time because an original song premiere that gets extra love, extra hearts, extra appreciation. Charlotte LeFranc is right there giving you that love and twinkle. She's on it. Everybody follows Charlotte's lead. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to read and respond before we go to Victoria Friedman. I just want to acknowledge what Ayada wrote in the chat box. And I think it's worthy of us having a brief conversation. She said that it made her heart ache to hear that the ascended masters approved of pornography. And then she proceeds to talk about the very real, I agree, problem with pornography is that it is sex without love. And I think pornography has been very destructive in many ways. It's given young men who grow up, teenagers who grow up masturbating to pornography, a very false sense of sexuality. It's created all sorts of trouble. So I agree with that. And I want to clarify one thing, Ayada. I didn't hear that it was that the masters approved of pornography. What I heard was that even someone that we might have a lot of judgment for is still a precious being, a precious soul, worthy of being kept alive, and that they wanted him to support him to continue his freedom of speech and his social activism work. So I heard it as a kind of definitely a little bit of a pattern disrupt that the ascended masters would work hard to keep someone alive that we might spiritually think of as not spiritual, not a spiritual person. And maybe he wasn't a spiritual person, but he still was human. He had a soul and he had value and purpose. So that's how I interpreted that story. Not that they were approving of pornography, but I'm curious.
Could I speak to that for a second, Scott?
Yes.
Yeah, I think where the masters stand is that they're both evils to a certain extent, but pornography is the lesser of two evils when it comes to releasing the tension. Most of us don't recognize how the unwanted, the undesirable in our society. If you're a desirable human being, at least this has been my experience, I never really recognize how many people in the world are undesirable and don't have a sexual life. And there's a lot of pent-up frustration. And and without pornography, they're not saying pornography is a great thing. What they're saying is that because of pornography, there's a release of tension, there's a release of frustration, there's a release of perversion, and there's a lot less murders, and there's a lot less sexual deviation and rapes as a result of pornography. So that gives it any more clarity. I hope it gives more clarity to it.
Okay, thank you, Gary. I appreciate your comment, and Ayada, I really appreciated your courage in stating that. I thought that was very powerful. Gaia on Maui writes, "Love the person, not the behavior." Yeah. Anyway, we move on to our next author, Victoria Friedman, and I've known Victoria through Unity Earth and the Evolutionary Leaders Circle and other areas that we all, connect with each other. And she wrote to me an email asking for a testimonial. And I said, hey, I'll do better than that. I'll put you on my show. So I guess, did Ron come back or did he have to go do his doctoral duties?
Yes. Ron is a retired physician, and he has a friend who's had some physical challenges, and he had to go to the hospital tonight, and Ron went to meet him.
Oh, that's very sweet of him.
Just
Well,
to be yeah.
glad we have you with us. And I'm going to do a quick screen share. This is the book that they're in the process of creating called Just Looking, Sacred Reflections, poetry by Ron and doodling by Victoria. Did you actually draw all of that? Is that a Victoria doodle that I'm looking at?
Yeah.
Oh, here, I'll go back to you since, here, I'm going to remove myself. Wow, that's quite extraordinary. Well, tell us a little bit about what the inspiration for this book has been.
Well, I guess I could say that this book started 62 years ago when we got married.
62 years ago?
Yeah, when we got married.
Oh my gosh. How old, like, may I ask how old you were when you were married?
21.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Well, first of all, I had no idea you were that age. I always thought you were my age.
Zoom is very lovely.
Yeah, Zoom does do a good job of hiding the but oh, that's incredible. 62 years of marriage.
Yeah,
That is
it's
something.
2 years. I just want to say that the show has been everything on the show, Scott, has given me so much opening, opening because the polyamory thing, I mean, I've heard about it, I know Alan Steinfeld well, and we've talked about these things, but just when that was being spoken about, I really started to have like a vision of why this is connected with the future. Like the connection of marriage. I don't know what's going to be called marriage, term marriage, something marriage, but just, having been married for 62 years, I can say that kind of just had an incredible vision about that in a very positive way of opening up, of really not being exclusive, the exclusivity of marriage. And, some people can't go out on a Saturday. I have friends that can't go out on a Saturday night because they're married and 40 years they have to be with their husbands.
Wow.
Sunday night, I mean, it's really intense. So that's one thing. And then Gary, right? Gary, I cannot believe I heard all those names. Madame Blavatsky and my God, do you know Sri Teswar? And just all those great masters that part of my life, my early life, definitely read Yogananda. Oh my God. Anyway, so I just want to say, Scott, that it's just been a beautiful evening.
Wonderful. I'm glad that that you're with us, Victoria, and I'm glad that you've been touched by the show so far. GR, by the way, wrote that she loved you dancing, and she's very happy to have your free spirit here. So, so tell us about this upcoming book.
Okay, so this book, Ron has done 2 other poetry books, and I've done a book on spirit doodling, and I've done 2 children's books, which I did on your show, Scott. So, we have kind of a background for that. And you'll see one of my doodles up here. I was doodling since I was 5 years old or something, I'm sure. I don't know if anybody else has been doodling forever, but, all over the sides of notes and everything. And anytime I had a paper, whenever I was on the phone. But what happened was I was on a webinar with listening to Oprah Winfrey and Eckhart Tolle. I don't know if people listen to that wonderful interchange. And of course, I'm doodling away when I'm doing this. I had never looked at them. Now, there's so many lessons I've learned from this, like, seriously, the mind does not value things that are very essential to us. Very essential. It doesn't value it. Like, throw it away. It's just doodling. You made a mess, whatever. Well, anyway, because of the heightened, I think, situation there with Eckhart Tolle, I looked down and I went, oh my God, what is this? And then I began to open up to it and really take a look and inquire, what was going on for me. What was that about? What is this? What's happening here that's beyond the mind? Beyond the mind. And by the way, it does help people learn more and hear more. So children, when they're told that in schools not to, don't daydream, that's not true. Because the mind quiets down quiets down a little bit because of the source that's coming through the art. And then the information from a lecture, actually children hear more of what is being said than less. This is from studies. But anyway, so we've been doing this. So Ron and I have done a lot together. So Ron wrote 2 poetry books, and we just decided to take some of his 3rd book, and I said, why don't we make this into an art book? I always loved that Rumi book. I don't know if anybody saw it, that Enlightened Rumi. with, I think it was, I forget who the artist was, Green, and it's a beautiful book, The Illuminated Rumi. So we decided to do that. So what happened was he had all these poems, and I would take the poem and I would cut it out and put it on a pad of paper. And then I would doodle around it, take the poem off, and then scan it and send it to my friend who started putting all this together. It took us a year. So I got to listen to Ron's poetry, which is absolutely stunning to me. We are like, Scott, I mentioned to you, we have a very unusual story, our marriage story. But it's really amazing that we have been, for 62 years, completely aligned on a spiritual journey. I mean, I can't, it's just unbelievable.
That's so beautiful. 62 years.
No,
That
it's
is really amazing. Amazing.
Yeah. And you know what? There's marriage 101, 201, 1.1. I mean, we were in 2 teachings together. So sometime I'd love to talk to you about it. I said I would, because we were actually married when I was 35. We'd been married, and Ron asked for a separation.
Oh,
We
wow.
we had 2 children. The reason he asked for a separation is because I was completely mainstream. Nothing wrong with it. But I was like, right here, there was a disc, a disc that had a program
Mm.
for everybody. It wasn't a terrible program. Get married, have children, get a Dodge Aspen station wagon with wood paneling. I mean, have a dog, do art. I mean, it was not a bad program. But when Ron left the marriage, when he said he wanted to have separation, my program crashed. I'm serious, my program crashed completely. Without a husband in it, it didn't work for me. Now, it works for a lot of people, and people get divorced and get through it. I didn't. I went, I died. So what I'm saying is that I found a teacher, and overnight, 3 years of pain went away. And Ron, I don't know if anybody's been in the Gurdjieff work. Anybody here? The Gurdjieff work, incredible Russian mystic. We were in that for 12 years together, because I found the teacher, and overnight, everything changed. All the pain went away, and my life as I knew it had come to an end. And who I was, who Vicky was, just wasn't there anymore. So then the work started. We were in the Gurdjieff work, and Ron saw this happening, and so he came to that teacher. And we were there together for about 6 months. He was living with another woman. She had 2 children. They were like getting ready to get engaged.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
I had just crashed out and had this incredible, I guess it's an awakening. I don't know. A lot of work had to go on after that. But what happened was, this teacher, either you did what he said or you could just leave, because everybody that came there had bottomed out really badly. And it wasn't just on drugs. It could be on relationships, especially Scott. A lot of people, really, really codependent relationships, to the point of like addicted like heroin.
Mm.
So what happens is, Ron goes to see this teacher, because the teacher, oh, I'm sorry, I'm backing up. I just want to tell you, I was so mainstream. Ron had these books around. One was the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching. And to Vicky, the Tao Te Ching looked like a Japanese cult.
Mm.
Seriously, it really did. That's why when we're behind the veil, it looked like a Japanese cult. And he was reading these books and going to Gurdjieff group meetings, and he didn't like the friends that I was taking him out with. He thought the conversation was boring. Other Jewish couples that had Naomi and, and Daniel, and they talked about restaurants and vacations. I mean, I said, what's wrong with you? That's what you do. Anyway, so that's why he left, and money and sex and everything else, dealing with marriage. But so he saw me like change overnight. And then he started coming to this man's program because this was a Gurdjieff group that he had been in the foundation. I found a different one. Out of nowhere, I was looking for another relationship. So I don't know, I guess this is kind of convoluted. But one day, the teacher of that group, I called him, and it was some organizational work, and he said to me, listen, you and Ron have to get back. This is exactly what he said. Listen, you and Ron have to get back together. You wasted enough time already. You know what? He says, it's not about your needs and about your desires and what's good for you and what's bad for him. There are people waiting to meet you. And if you want to do that, that's your destiny. If you don't want to, the door swings both ways. You're free to go, have a good life.
Wow.
And we said yes. He moved out from the other woman,
Wow.
Scott.
Wow.
So that's why this book is, we've been through Marriage 101, again, Marriage 4 here now, and in non-duality.
Yeah.
From practice to presence, with teachers of Gurdjieff and teachers in non-duality. And so Ron is kind of a Sufi now. He's been everything else. So these poems are beautiful. They're poems of like completion, they're poems that it's like I live with Hafiz, like, the dishes becomes a poem like that. So, I started doodling. It's the same way. It's no mind. You just absolutely take a pen and a blank piece of paper. The most beautiful thing in the world is a blank piece of paper.
Oh,
Blank piece of paper. It's nothing. Beautiful thing.
beautiful. I'm going to read a couple of comments, and then I'm going to show some of the PDF that you sent me. But
Okay.
Diara writes, you have such a beautiful energy that you exude, Victoria. And Omashar writes, what an amazing sharing, dear Victoria, liberating.
Thank
And
you.
Eleanor Joy writes, Hafiz is my favorite Sufi. So, all right, we're going to take a look at some of Just Looking Sacred Reflections. And I'm going to read a couple of things. Seeing, look as if nothing ever had to be. And then with eyes newly open, now see. And hopefully all of you are seeing, there's the kind of the cover, Doodles by Victoria, Poetry by Ron. Now, this is a 94-page PDF, so I'm going to kind of scroll quickly.
Yeah.
But
By the way,
here-
see this? This is the table of contents. It's straight out of Illuminated Rumi. They did this beautiful artwork where it was a spiral. So I kind of picked up on that. Anyway.
Yeah, beautiful. So the chapters, chapter 1 is sacred, chapter 2 is mystery, chapter 3 is light, chapter 4 is seeing, chapter 5 is identity, chapter 6 is poor poet, chapter 7 ignorance, chapter 8 joy, chapter 9 psalms, and then we move on.
Now,
And
each chapter, by the way, has a different doodle theme.
wow. Well, we're gonna see little parts of it. So, for example, here's chapter 1. What, Victoria?
Yeah, go down a little bit more. This is a beautiful poem.
The soul, overwhelmed by gratitude, knows not where to place its tribute, knows no object on which its light shines, knows not how far its love's embrace extends. It simply holds silence in awe, in wonder. And I love the doodle of sacred wonder there.
Keep going, because just scroll faster so you can see some of the. This is beautiful too. Haiku.
The hibiscus bloom shakes. The fluorescent hummingbird, oh, just took off. Hummingbirds, faithful reminders of unheard frequencies.
You like that? I love that. By the way, doodling is like it's really oneness, wholeness, everything that we learn about, everything that we hear about. There are no mistakes in doodling. Doodling has it when we start doodling, when I start doodling, I could hear everything my mind ever said about art.
Mm.
Everything. Like I was doodling away, and then all of a sudden, the pen went somewhere, and I heard this voice that said, "You ruined it. You
Wow.
ruined it." So I went, "Whoa, I actually heard it. I heard the voices." And so I took that one thing that I ruined it, and I did it all over the page. It was my favorite doodle for 2 months.
Wow.
And by the way, there's no preferences. There's no beginning and end. There is, it's just a flow of unseen, something unseen, something that is not definitely our bodies used, our hands. It's not as if, it doesn't come through me in that way, but the energy of it, speak of love and creativity. And oh, that's the other thing. See, Ron's poetry and my doodling is completely spontaneous. And we studied with a non-dual teacher. Actually, there's a woman here today, Susan, who studied with him, who knows about him also. And Kenneth Mills, we studied for 4 years. He was our mentor. And everything was spontaneous. Everything around him was spontaneous. And he did 30,000 hours of unfoldments and had singers singing in Carnegie Hall and did all the cathedrals of Europe, sang there, and everything was a flow from the infinite, from the unseen. So,
Beautiful.
like Ron and I don't actually think that we are collaborating, we don't think that way. We think we are somehow involved with a radical reliance on something invisible. That's what we. So it's just it's like polyamory. It's a triad. It's Ron and I and the infinite, and something is going, and we both have this process that happened to Ron spontaneously and to myself. So it's just we don't ever know what to think about it.
Wow.
We don't.
Well, I'm going to read some of the comments that have come in from our audience before we wrap up here. Dia Therese writes, "I love doodling, Victoria. You bring so much life into me. I'm also in my 80s, and I welcome my next spiritual partner." Absolutely. Eleanor Joy writes, "What a very creative table of contents." Carol writes, "Metacognitive drawing." Susan Bloomquist writes, "Super simple, lovely." Susan T. Peace has a question for you. Do you attribute your gifts to your spiritual guidance and teachings?
Do I attribute my gifts to my spiritual guidance? I am the gift. My mentor, Kenneth Mills, said, "You are the tastiness to the dish." Just think about that. You are the tastiness to the dish. It's not from outside. So so I am the gift to the manifestation.
Okay, beautiful. Joanna Joy says, "What a great fusion of neural art, poetry, haikus, doodles. Bravo. This is inspiring and so emotive." And I've put into the chat box, for those of you in the Zoom room, I have put into the chat box the PDF that you can open and save to really go through and take a look at this beautiful project she's created. Susan T. Peace writes, "Kenneth Mills was my spiritual mentor since 1979. Dia Therese writes, "I bought a sketchbook the other day for no particular reason." And then she writes to you, "Victoria, you are a real gem." And Scotty Satori is here. That's good. Welcome, Scotty. Eleanor Joy was just asking about you. Grace Denise writes, "Ron's poetry and your doodles are wonderful. I love the hummingbird. It's my favorite."
Thank you so much. My God.
Yeah, so
Yeah, the
you really,
book is at a publisher. They're producing it now, and then there'll be an ebook that'll come out, and then I don't think that not hardcover, but the regular book won't come out till September. And it's 8 by 10, so it's not a little book, you know.
Wow. Yeah, it's going to be like a coffee table book.
Nice.
Yeah, well, it seems like that's what it would be. Susan T. Peace writes, "Thank you for sharing this book, this gift. It is delightful." Absolutely. And I guess, do you want me to take people to your other website for a moment? And you can share a little bit about that. I'm going to go to that. Is this a good place for people to
It's a
get
lot
on
different.
your email list?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Okay, so her other website, or actually her only website at this time, is Vistar View, VISTARVIEW.org.
That came from my teachings, my mentor, Kenneth Mills, because he said, you have to understand that when I met him, when Ron and I met him, we had done the Gurdjieff work for 12 years. We had worked on ourselves so hard. And at the end of it, it's a beautiful system. I got better. I got a lot better. I got more balanced. A lot of good things happened, but that was not, it was tiring, and it was also discouraging. Like, you know, so much meditation, so much chanting, so much of everything. And suddenly I meet this person who says, you're not a person looking up to a star. You're a star consciousness looking down. So Vistar View.
That's beautiful. And it looks, if I understand correctly, it looks like you have another, it says coming in 2025, which was last year, the
Yeah,
Vistar book. Did that ever happen, or?
yeah, this is supposed to light on light. This is happening with with your good friend Kurt. He's just so busy. I don't know what's going on. But
Oh, okay, well, definitely once it's done, we'll have you and Kurt on with us for sure. And what's this? Meditation.
this is this is on Facebook, but we've been doing a meditation practice for about 30 years, Ron and I. That started with our first teaching. And so we do it with other people. There's like a chat group that you can join, and everybody reads the spiritual book, and we just keep in touch every day saying, I'm reading, whatever time we're doing it, and kind of a community. And it's just, but for us, it was with our first teacher that were there for 12 years, and with the Gurdjieff group, we read every day, every morning for 2 hours. I mean,
Wow.
every single day, because I must have missed some days, but it was a spiritual practice that was essential. So we went beyond reading. We read the same book for 6 years.
Wow. More comments coming in. Susan T. Peace writes, "Looking out from the star." I love that. Eleanor Joy writes, "Victoria, you are refreshing for us all." Carol writes, "I love the triangle over the circle image logo. Just the other day, I spontaneously was guided to draw a circle with a triangle imposed in it." So you were picking up the vibe, Carol.
Mm.
Well, Victoria, thank you so much for being on the show, and give Ron our best. I'm sorry we weren't able to hear him recite some of his poetry. We'll just have to have both of you come back on when the book is available in the fall, and hopefully by that time, Kurt and your other book will be ready, and so we'll do a double dip. How's that sound?
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Scott.
My
Thank you.
pleasure, Victoria. Thank you. Hey, everybody, I'm going to make a executive decision. My video with Karina, our other author, it's a pre-recorded video because she's in Spain, so it's 3:00 in the morning there right now. It's a half an hour long, so I'm going to play it on Saturday night because this Saturday night show is kind of taking shape. I'll tell you more about that on Saturday. So you will see Karina and the pre-record I did with her as part of the Saturday show. Wonderful authors. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Kamala Devi. Thank you, Gary. And I am going to turn it over to our beloved Omashar for our closing song.
Actually, we have prayer time.
We have prayer time. That's right. I'm so sorry. I'm a little off today. I got up early this morning. I didn't get a nap in, so I apologize. You're getting slightly spacey Scott. Um, Here is Diara for prayer time. Thank you, Bashar.
The slightly spacey Scott, I like that. And Victoria, we were looking for the link to Vistar, if you have that, to pop in the chat. And I think authors that we love, tonight's subtitle could be Sacred Sex and Spiritual Sensuality. It's been such a rich, embodied conversation, bringing in just ways to think about being and adding the spiritual dimensions to it. So for this part of our prayer time, I invite us all to take the energies that have been created here to open and let it flow through your body, awakening any energies that are ready to be awakened along these lines. And of course, there's such a spectrum and what's right for each of us, and just pushing those boundaries, expanding, expanding, expanding. So breathing in all that sensual vitality, breathing in the spiritual nature of being embodied in these beautiful bodies. They are our holy temples. And inviting more of that energy in to go into a deeper physical healing. And in our Zoom room tonight, we have beloveds that are inspirations in and of themselves. Our beautiful Eleanor Joy, up and dancing. Even our beautiful Lynn, up and dancing. Scotty in the Zoom room. And Ayada's beautiful family. And I, when I'm doing prayer time for us like this, I'm somewhat entranced, so I have a hard time reading the chat while holding and bringing in the energy from the space. So I apologize. I'll try and blend that in. And sending this love and light out to all those that we love, all those that we know. Such inspiration, such joy, and permission, really permission to be who we are in all of our divinity. Again, the sacred sexuality, the spiritual sensuality, and just honoring that we have this freedom of speech here. And so I'll begin to close and look at the chat. I know, Scott, you're always so good at doing that and bringing in more specific prayers. Thank you to our authors for speaking your truth, for being willing to be seen, to put it out so that others can drink from your cup. And with much love and groundedness, and so it is.
Thank you. I'm going to go to gallery view. And just maximum grace. So grateful that Eleanor Joy's feeling better. So grateful that Scotty Satori is in the room with us. And let's just have a minute of silence and everybody send prayers to yourself or to those that you're in awareness of that can use some extra grace. Maximum grace to our world. Maximum grace for all of our global peace drivers. Maximum grace for all beings everywhere, especially those that are feeling isolated, hungry, lonely, sad. Maximum grace to all. And thank you so very, very much, DR. I so appreciate you. And I'm going to send it over to Omashart.
the love inside us all. I am, I am, I am the heart, I am the soul. It's in every one of us, the heart of us all. I am, I am. It's the driving force of us, the way of the universe. I am, I am. Radiant sunrise is why we're here. Heart streaming light into our atmosphere, where life is dear and love will free us all. I am, I am the trees, I am the soil. Heart, I am your soul. It's in every one of us, the heart of us all. I am, I am. It's the driving force of us, the way of the universe. I am, I am. Radiant sunrise is why we're here. Heart streaming light into our atmosphere, where life is dear and love will free us all. It's in every one of us, the heart of us all. I am, I am. It's the driving force of us, the way of the universe. I am, I am. Radiant sunrise is why we're here. Heart streaming light into our atmosphere, where life is dear and love will free us all.
Such a beautiful song. It's so beautiful to watch all of you moving and swaying to that beautiful music. Thank you, everybody, for being with us tonight. Please do come back on Saturday night. I don't have a poster yet because I'm putting the show together. It's going to be quite unique. But I hope to see all of you then and have a beautiful few days. Thank you, beloved Omashar. Thank you, authors, Victoria, Gary, Kamala Devi. And I look forward to seeing all of you on Saturday night. Good night, everyone.